For this video, we're going to continue from our last one, where we rewrote data into a database, a table, and now we're going to look at deleting values from a database table. So if you go to your SQL server, for the class here that you've made, or however you've got this, and you now make a new public void, as this is a new method to delete values, and you can call this whatever you want. In this case, I'm going to call it delete data. So for this, we're first going to fill in these values, or the variables that you're inputting first. So let's do a string of database, string table, and we're going to do something similar to the rewrite data, but we're not taking in an array anymore. Because when you want to delete the data, you want to delete the whole entry, because we've got the rewrite data to rewrite data in a certain position, so not the whole entry, but a certain part of the entry or certain column. Delete data, we'll want to delete the whole entry from the table. So we don't need a columns and values array, 2D array. Oh, sorry, just an array. In this case, we're going to do similar to rewrite data and have a condition column, because you want to delete the index of a certain amount, or an ID of a certain amount in this case. So if we do a string of condition column and a string of condition value, and now we're going to do again very similar to the last methods and do a try catch. You don't have to do this, but it just makes things easier later on. So we can do a nice little bit here telling you what went wrong. So failed to delete entry, where we can do condition column is equal to condition value, just to tell you what happened. So it can tell you this column could not be deleted. Maybe that's it could not find the column where that value is present, or it just helps you with knowing what went wrong. Also, I've forgotten to mention, when you're doing this, if you encounter a problem where it's not working, you can just comment out these bits here, just for the try and catch, and then instead you can have a return at the end of here. So that means once it's successfully done this, it will return. And if we put this at the end of each one, you can make this a bit more efficient. And what that means is it can tell you, it can actually, when it crashes, it can tell you what went wrong, because it will come up with an error saying, oh, this didn't work. So you can remove the try catches or comment them out for the time being if something's not working. However, when it's working, you don't want something to go wrong and the program to crash when the user is using it. You'll want a nice kind of soft crash, in a sense, of telling you what went wrong, so you can then maybe send that off to the person who's made the software and tell them this went wrong, or the user can do that. So a crash report, in a sense. So going back to deleting the data, we want to do, as before, a connection, and we want to open it. So we want to open a connection. We want to do command.connection equals connection. We then want to do com.command text. And again, you can copy this from before, just for the time being. I'm just going to write it out again. We want to execute non-query, and we want to do connection.close. Okay, and now let's do a return at the end, as I was saying before. And now let's go and look back at the command text. So here you want to do a delete function. So before we've had insert into, we've had update, now we want delete, and it's self-explanatory that you use delete. And then you want to do delete from, and then you'll do the database, so same as before, so the database and then the table. So we can copy that from the previous one. And then you want to do where, and this is where you'll do the condition column and then the condition value. Now this is a nice simple method. You can do same as how we've got it up here. We want to do condition column is equal to condition value. And there we go. We're done for the delete method. Now, if we test it to make sure it all works, let's save this as well. So let's comment out that server.rewrite, and now let's do server.delete data, server.database, server.table. We now want to do a condition column and a condition value. So let's delete, let's say, Fred Hughes. We want to get rid of Fred Hughes. Maybe he's graduated from this class, he's no longer, maybe he's graduated from the school, and we want to delete him from the database. So he's got the ID of 0. So let's delete where ID is equal to 0. And again, we don't do it as an integer, even though it's stored as an integer. We want to do it as a string because it's putting it into the command line, in a sense. So we're going to delete the value, or the entry, where ID is equal to 0. Now if we look back at here, that would be Fred Hughes. So now if we try this, let's try and run this, see if it goes wrong. Okay, it ran, form came up, which means chances are it worked. If we have a look, refresh this, we've now lost Fred Hughes. So Fred Hughes has been deleted from the database, and we now have the ID of 0, free to enter information. So it's a nice simple method for deleting data. That will be it for this video, and the next video will probably be on counting the values in the table. Thank you very much.